My sister took my husband's hand right in front of everyone at my own baby shower. I walked over and handed her a gift with a pristine bow on it. She smiled, assuming it was a token of submission, until she opened it. My name is Sophia Williams. I am 31 years old and I live in Florida. Until that afternoon, I thought I had built a perfect life with a man who respected me. Before I continue this story, let me know your age and where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe to Grape Vengeance if you have ever had to stand tall while someone you loved tried to humiliate you in public. It was a sweltering Saturday in Miami. The air conditioning inside our waterfront mansion fought a losing battle against the heat of 50 guests crowded into the living room. Caterers navigated through groups of Liam's wealthy friends and his pretentious family, carrying trays of sparkling cider and miniature crab cakes. The room smelled of expensive perfume and sweet frosting from a 3-tiered cake sitting on the dining table. I stood alone near the gift display, 7 months pregnant, the weight of the child pressing heavily against my lower back. Across the room stood Vanessa. My younger sister was 26, aspiring to build a social media empire on the illusion of a flawless lifestyle. She wore a fitted silk dress that left very little to the imagination. I watched her press her shoulder against Liam's chest. Liam leaned into her. Right there in front of a dozen guests holding their drinks, Vanessa reached down and intertwined her manicured fingers with his. Liam did not pull away. A slow smirk crept across his face. He lowered his head, whispering something near her ear, and then his gaze flicked across the room. He looked directly at my swollen stomach. The corner of his mouth twitched upward in a mocking grin. The disrespect hung thick in the room. A few guests noticed averting their eyes to their phones or suddenly finding the hardwood floor fascinating. They expected me to break. They expected a pregnant, emotional housewife to run upstairs in tears. They had no idea I had known about their affair for exactly 72 hours. The grief had already burned out, leaving only cold ash and calculation in its wake. I turned to the table beside me. Resting next to a stack of designer baby clothes was a small silver gift box tied with a white satin ribbon. I picked it up. The cardboard felt smooth and light in my hands. I squared my shoulders and walked directly through the crowd. The chatter died down as guests stepped aside, creating a narrow path between me and my husband. Vanessa noticed me approaching. She did not let go of Liam's hand until I was 2 feet away. She pasted on a bright, camera-ready smile, tossing her hair over one shoulder. "Sophia, you should be sitting down," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You look exhausted." I did not blink. I extended the silver box toward her, offering a calm, dead-eyed smile. "I have something for you," I said. Her eyes lit up. She loved expensive things, and she clearly thought I was trying to buy her loyalty or placate her ego in front of the crowd. She snatched the box from my hands and pulled the ribbon loose. She lifted the lid, eager to see what designer jewelry I had chosen. The smug smile fell off her face in a fraction of a second. Inside the small silver box rested 2 items, resting on a bed of white tissue paper. The first was a cheap plastic motel key, attached to a faded green tag. It bore the logo of a run-down roadside inn located off the interstate, a place infamous for renting rooms by the hour. The second item was a single sheet of standard printer paper, folded neatly into a square. Vanessa stared at the plastic key, her brow furrowing in confusion. She expected an expensive tennis bracelet. She expected a lavish token of my submission. She reached in with her long manicured fingernails and pulled out the folded paper. The living room grew incredibly quiet. The clatter of silverware against porcelain plates faded. 50 guests held their breath, sensing a sharp shift in the atmosphere. Vanessa unfolded the paper. Her eyes scanned the printed text. It was a high-resolution screenshot of a digital banking ledger. This was not a local checking statement. It was a hidden offshore entity registered in the Cayman Islands. At the very top of the ledger, printed in bold black ink, were 2 names listed as joint account holders, Liam and Vanessa. Row after row of transaction histories detailed hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled from my husband's domestic accounts directly into their shared secret fund. Her hands began to tremble. The paper shook, producing a dry, rattling sound in the silent room. She looked up at me, the color draining from her cheeks, leaving her designer makeup looking like a painted mask on a ghost. She opened her mouth, but her throat clamped shut. Liam stepped closer, irritated by her sudden freeze. He peered over her shoulder to look at the paper. The transformation was instantaneous. The arrogant smirk melted off his face. His skin turned the color of wet ash. He looked at the printed routing numbers, then looked directly into my eyes. A single bead of sweat traced the line of his jaw. His eyes darted around the room, registering the dozens of wealthy investors, friends, and family members watching his every move. He had to act fast to protect his image. I watched the gears turn behind his eyes. He reached out and snatched the paper from Vanessa's trembling hands. He crumpled it into a tight ball, shoving it deep into his trouser pocket, along with the cheap motel key. He threw the empty silver box onto the floor. It hit the hardwood with a sharp clatter. "Sophia needs space," Liam announced. His voice boomed across the living room, startling the guests. He did not sound like a guilty man caught in an affair. He sounded like a deeply concerned, long-suffering husband. He took a step toward me, holding his hands up in a placating gesture, treating me like a cornered animal. "Everyone, please step back," Liam instructed the crowd. "My wife is not well. We have been dealing with this in private, but it seems her condition is worsening." Guests murmured, exchanging bewildered glances. A woman in a floral sundress took a physical step backward. "What are you talking about, Liam?" a friend from his golf club asked, stepping out of the crowd. Liam let out a heavy theatrical sigh. He ran a hand through his hair, projecting total exhaustion. "It is severe prenatal psychosis," he declared, using the medical term as a weapon. "The doctors warned us about this. The hormonal shifts have triggered extreme paranoia. She is having delusions. She thinks everyone is against her. She thinks my own sister is trying to ruin our family. She fabricated bank documents just to create drama." He turned to the crowd, offering a sad, pathetic shake of his head. "She is unstable. She is a danger to herself and to our unborn child. I have tried to handle this quietly to protect her dignity, but she just ruined her own baby shower with these insane fabrications." Vanessa caught on to the performance immediately. She pressed a hand against her chest, letting a few fake tears spill over her eyelashes. She leaned against the gift table, playing the role of the traumatized innocent victim targeted by a crazy sibling. The guests began to whisper. Some looked at me with deep pity. Others crossed their arms, buying into his lie without a second thought. I stood my ground, my hands resting on my pregnant stomach. I did not scream. I did not call him a liar. Defending my sanity in a room full of people desperate to believe his version of reality was a waste of energy. I remained perfectly still, watching him dig his own grave. Before the murmurs could die down, Liam's parents pushed their way to the front of the crowd. Diane and Richard were the epitome of Miami high society. Diane wore a crisp linen suit and a heavy pearl necklace. Richard stood tall in a tailored blazer, holding a crystal glass of bourbon. Diane marched directly toward me, her face twisted into a mask of pure contempt. She bypassed her son and grabbed my upper arm. Her acrylic nails dug sharply into my skin. "What is wrong with you?" Diane hissed, keeping her voice low enough that only I could hear the venom, while maintaining a fake smile for the watching guests. "You are embarrassing this entire family. These people are elite investors. They are the foundation of Liam's social circle. You are ruining my son's reputation with your pathetic hormonal tantrums." I looked down at her hand gripping my arm. I did not pull away. I simply stared at her fingers until she felt the chill of my gaze and released me, wiping her hand on her linen skirt, as if touching me had soiled her clothes. Richard stepped up beside his wife, puffing out his chest. "Liam has built an incredible tech startup," Richard stated, addressing the nearest business partners to control the damage. "My son works 100 hours a week to provide a beautiful life for this woman, and this is how she repays him, by creating paranoid fantasies and attacking her own sister. It is disgraceful. She was never suited for our world." Liam felt emboldened by his parents stepping in. The initial shock of the offshore bank account screenshot vanished, replaced by a surge of cruel confidence. He believed he had successfully spun the narrative. He believed he held all the power in the room. "I cannot have you here, Sophia," Liam said, his tone shifting from fake concern to cold authority. "You are creating a hostile environment. You need professional help, and I will not let you endanger my business contacts or my reputation." He pointed toward the heavy oak front door. "I want you to leave, right now." A few of the guests gasped. Throwing a 7-month pregnant woman out of her own baby shower was an extreme escalation. But Liam was too busy playing the wealthy tech titan to care about optics anymore. He needed me out of the house before I could reveal any more evidence. "You have no right to kick me out," I said, my voice steady and quiet, offering him the perfect bait to hang himself in front of his peers. Liam scoffed a loud, ugly sound that echoed in the high-ceilinged room. He gestured expansively at the crystal chandeliers, the imported marble floors, and the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. "I have every right," Liam bragged, his chest swelling with unearned pride. "My tech company pays the bills. My startup funded this entire lifestyle. I am the sole provider in this marriage. You have not worked a real job in years. You have no legal right to stay on a property funded entirely by my genius. This is my house." He reached into the breast pocket of his designer suit and pulled out a slim green prepaid debit card. It was the kind you buy at a gas station checkout counter. He tossed it through the air. The plastic card hit the floor near my shoes, skidding across the polished marble. "There is $200 on that card," Liam ordered, looking down his nose at me. "Pick it up. Call a taxi. Tell the driver to take you to a psychiatric clinic. Do not come back to this house until you have a doctor's note proving you are medicated and stable." He turned his back on me, wrapping an arm around Vanessa's shoulders, pulling her close under the guise of comforting her. Diane and Richard nodded in approval, proud of their son for taking charge and expelling the defective wife from their pristine world. I looked down at the green piece of plastic resting near my feet. I did not bend down to pick it up. I did not shed a single tear. I did not launch into a screaming fit about the affair, the hidden money, or the blatant disrespect. My mind was operating with clinical precision. I turned around and walked over to the entryway console table. I picked up my leather purse and slipped the strap over my shoulder. The crowd parted in silence as I moved toward the exit. I walked out the heavy front door, stepping into the sweltering Miami heat. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing them inside their fabricated reality. They were toasting to my departure. They thought they had just discarded a dependent, helpless housewife who had no resources and no place to go. Liam genuinely believed his startup money bought that waterfront mansion. He believed he was an untouchable titan of industry who could throw his pregnant wife onto the street without consequence. He did not know I held the physical deed to the house, and he had no idea what was waiting for him at my hidden penthouse. The Florida sun beat down on the driveway concrete, radiating heat through the thin soles of my sandals. I walked past Liam's silver sports car, a vehicle he leased to project an image of undeniable success. I ignored the gas station prepaid card he threw at my feet. I did not pull out my phone to hail a cheap taxi. I did not search for a local clinic. Waiting at the end of the manicured cul-de-sac was a black sport utility vehicle with heavily tinted windows. The engine hummed a low, steady rhythm. As I approached, the driver stepped out. Marcus wore a sharp charcoal suit. He opened the rear passenger door without saying a word. I slid into the cool, climate-controlled leather interior. The door clicked shut, silencing the suffocating suburban neighborhood. "Take me to Brickell," I instructed, leaning back against the headrest. Marcus nodded, merging the heavy vehicle seamlessly onto the interstate. I watched the sprawling waterfront mansions blur past the glass. Liam genuinely believed he had just banished a weak, dependent woman. When we met 4 years ago, I told him I worked as an administrative assistant at a mid-level accounting firm. When I became pregnant, he insisted I quit to focus on building our family. I agreed, playing the role of the quiet, supported housewife. He loved the dynamic. It fed his towering ego to feel like the sole provider, the brilliant tech genius taking care of his simple wife. He was fatally wrong. I never worked as an administrative assistant. I am a senior financial compliance auditor for one of the most ruthless private equity firms on the East Coast. My daily routine does not involve filing paperwork or brewing coffee. I spend my days tracking hidden offshore accounts, identifying corporate embezzlement schemes, and dismantling the lives of corrupt executives. I hunt white-collar thieves for a living. I allowed Liam to believe his narrative because I wanted a sanctuary. I wanted a normal, peaceful home life, far away from the cutthroat reality of my profession. Instead, I married my next target. The SUV glided into the underground parking garage of a soaring glass high-rise in the heart of Miami's financial district. This building required a retinal scan just to access the private elevators. Marcus parked near the VIP entrance. I stepped out, bypassed the lobby entirely, and rode the private elevator up to the top floor. The steel doors slid open, revealing a sprawling, hyper-secure luxury penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Biscayne Bay, but the interior was stark modern and built for function. I purchased this property years ago through a blind trust. Liam had no idea this fortress existed. I walked into the master suite and unzipped the restricting maternity dress I wore for the baby shower. The fabric felt heavy with the stench of Liam's betrayal. I let it fall to the floor. I changed into loose cotton sweatpants and a simple dark t-shirt, tying my hair back into a tight knot. The physical relief was immediate. The facade of the helpless pregnant woman was gone. I walked into the designated office space at the end of the hall. A custom-built liquid-cooled workstation sat on a wide mahogany desk. 3 curved monitors remained dark, waiting for my command. I sat down in the ergonomic leather chair and entered a complex sequence of decryption keys on the mechanical keyboard. The screens flickered to life, illuminating the dim room with cascading lines of financial data and secure banking portals. It was time to initiate the lockdown. Liam operated under the assumption that his medical supply startup, Vanguard Health, was a self-funded triumph. He loved to stand around at cocktail parties swirling a glass of scotch, bragging to his friends about how he secured his initial seed funding through sheer charisma and business acumen. He claimed a faceless holding company in Delaware, believed in his vision, and handed him the capital to build his empire. He never bothered to look past the generic name of that holding company. If he had hired a competent investigator, he would have discovered that the Delaware entity was a direct subsidiary of my private equity firm. I am the anonymous proxy who approved his initial funding. I am the silent gatekeeper who controls his operating licenses, his credit lines, and his entire supply chain. I built his throne, and now I was going to pull the floor out from under it. I opened my primary banking terminal. Liam utilized a joint household account for his everyday expenses. He used it to pay for his bespoke suits, his expensive dinners, and the gifts he showered on my sister. He thought the account was sustained by his startup dividends. In reality, I deposited my own silent corporate bonuses into that ledger to keep his fragile ego intact. I highlighted the available balance. With 3 keystrokes, I drained the account, routing the funds back into my untraceable personal trust. The balance dropped to 0. Next, I targeted his corporate lifelines. Vanguard Health relied heavily on revolving credit lines to purchase inventory from overseas manufacturers. Liam assumed the banks extended him millions in credit because they trusted his business model. The truth was far less flattering. The banks only approved those credit lines because I secretly acted as the guarantor, leveraging my own immaculate financial portfolio to shield him from risk. I logged into the corporate banking portal and pulled up the guarantor agreements. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I officially drafted a notice of withdrawal revoking my personal guarantee on every single line of credit Vanguard Health possessed. I hit submit. The confirmation flashed green across the center monitor. The trap was officially set. By Monday morning, the automated risk algorithms at his banks would detect the missing guarantor. They would immediately freeze his corporate accounts. His vendor payments would bounce. His payroll would halt. His suppliers would demand cash on delivery, which he did not have. His fake tech empire would suffocate in a matter of days. I leaned back in the leather chair, watching the digital ledgers turn red as the system processed my commands. The glow of the monitors reflected in my eyes. I felt a cold, calculating satisfaction settling deep in my chest. Liam and Vanessa thought they were clever. They thought they could parade their affair in front of my face, humiliate me in my own home, and cast me aside without a second thought. They underestimated the architect of their entire reality. But shutting off the money was only the first phase. Liam was not just a cheating husband with an inflated sense of self-worth. He was a criminal. He was actively trying to frame me for a felony that carried a severe federal prison sentence. I closed the banking portal and opened a secure, encrypted folder on my desktop, labeled with Vanguard Health's tax identification number. Inside this folder rested the undeniable proof of his impending downfall. My mind drifted back to the exact moment this nightmare began. I did not just wake up this morning and decide to annihilate the father of my child. The foundation of this execution was laid exactly 72 hours ago during a routine late-night review of his company ledgers. What I found hiding in the digital shadows was a betrayal so profound it forever erased the man I thought I married. 72 hours before the baby shower betrayal, I sat in the dark home office of our waterfront mansion. The clock on my desk glowed a faint blue, displaying midnight. Rain tapped gently against the window pane. Down the hall, Liam was fast asleep, his breathing a steady rhythm echoing through the quiet house. I sat at my laptop, sipping decaf tea, running my routine monthly review of the Vanguard Health financial ledgers. As the anonymous proxy guaranteeing his corporate credit, I monitored his cash flow to ensure my firm's investment remained secure. Liam thought I was browsing baby furniture online. I was actually auditing his balance sheets. Vanguard Health had recently secured a highly competitive federal healthcare grant. The government allocated $10 million to his company for the development of advanced sterile surgical equipment. The funds were deposited into his primary corporate account on Monday. I opened the Treasury portal to verify the deposit. The initial $10 million was there, but the current available balance read $5 million. I paused, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. A $5 million deficit is not a rounding error. It is a gaping hole. I pulled up the transaction history for the week. There were no outgoing payments to medical manufacturers. There were no payroll bonuses. Instead, I found a single unauthorized outgoing wire transfer executed late Thursday night. $5 million routed directly into a private holding account. From there, the trail went dark, vanishing into an opaque nonprofit organization registered under the name the Azure Horizon Initiative. My heart rate slowed to a cold, deliberate thump. I opened a new tab and accessed the state corporate registry. I typed in the name of the nonprofit. The database loaded the registration documents. I scrolled down to the board of directors. The registered agent and primary director was Vanessa, my 26-year-old sister, the aspiring influencer who spent her days taking selfies at beach clubs and complaining about her lack of funding. The air in the home office grew thin. I leaned closer to the monitor. I deployed my private equity firm's tracking software to bypass the basic banking firewalls. I needed to see exactly what the Azure Horizon Initiative was doing with federal grant money. The charity did not purchase ocean cleaning supplies or fund marine research. The ledger showed a single outgoing purchase agreement. They bought a 70-foot luxury yacht. The vessel was registered in the Cayman Islands under a shell corporation, listing Liam as the primary owner and Vanessa as the secondary beneficiary. The betrayal hit me in two distinct waves. The first wave was the infidelity. My husband was funneling money to my younger sister. He was buying her a yacht to serve as their private playground. The second wave was much darker. It was a legal realization that froze the blood in my veins. The federal government does not simply hand over $10 million without severe oversight. Releasing funds of that magnitude requires dual authorization. Liam could not move that money alone. He needed the signature of his financial guarantor. He needed me. I accessed the federal grant release forms stored in his encrypted corporate drive. I opened the PDF and scrolled to the final page. There, sitting perfectly on the authorization line, was my digital signature. They had forged my name. I extracted the metadata hidden behind the digital signature. Every action on a computer leaves a fingerprint. The IP address matched our home router. The timestamp read Friday at 9 in the evening, exactly 2 weeks prior. I opened my personal calendar. 2 weeks ago, on that exact Friday, I was attending a weekend prenatal yoga retreat in Naples. Liam stayed home, claiming he needed to prepare for his upcoming investor pitch. I opened my social media feed and scrolled back to that specific date. Vanessa had posted a photo of herself holding a glass of wine in my living room, wearing Liam's oversized dress shirt, adding a caption about enjoying a quiet night indoors. While I was out of town preparing to give birth to our child, my husband and my sister were drinking my wine, sleeping in my bed, and framing me for a federal crime. If the government audited Vanguard Health and discovered the missing millions, Liam would claim ignorance. The digital paper trail pointed directly to me. My signature authorized the transfer. The money went to my biological sister. I was the financial auditor. The federal prosecutors would look at the evidence and conclude that I embezzled the grant money to fund a lavish lifestyle for my family. Liam would walk away the innocent victim of a corrupt wife. I would give birth in a federal prison. I sat in the dark office, gripping the edge of the mahogany desk. I did not cry. Tears are a biological response for people who feel helpless. I felt no helplessness. I felt a terrifying, absolute clarity. The child in my stomach gave a sharp kick. I placed my hand over my belly, making a silent promise in the dark. No one was going to take my freedom. No one was going to destroy our future. I grabbed a blank, encrypted thumb drive from my desk drawer and plugged it into the laptop. I began the harvest. I downloaded the IP logs proving the signature originated from Liam's device. I saved the offshore routing numbers. I captured high-resolution screenshots of the yacht purchase agreement listing both their names. I archived every text message Liam sent me that weekend, proving I was hundreds of miles away when the fraud occurred. I dug deeper into his personal credit card statements. The picture sharpened into focus. Charges for luxury hotels disguised as corporate retreats. Receipts for expensive lingerie logged as office supplies. I compiled every piece of data into a secure, weaponized dossier. A standard divorce was no longer an option. Filing for divorce meant sitting in a mediation room, dividing assets, and allowing Liam to spin a narrative that I was simply a jealous hormonal wife. He would hire expensive lawyers and try to hide the theft. I needed him to step into a trap he could not escape. I needed to orchestrate a public execution so thorough that he would never work scheme or show his face in a boardroom again. The sun began to peek over the Miami skyline, casting a pale orange glow across the home office. I unplugged the thumb drive and slipped it into my pocket. I closed the laptop and walked into the kitchen to brew a pot of coffee. 10 minutes later, Liam padded down the hallway wearing his expensive silk pajamas. He stretched, offering a lazy, satisfied yawn. He walked up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, and kissed the top of my head. "Good morning, beautiful," Liam murmured. "How did you sleep?" I turned around and looked into the eyes of a man actively plotting to send me to a federal penitentiary. I offered him a warm, gentle smile. "I slept perfectly," I replied, handing him a mug of coffee. For the next 72 hours, I played the role of the oblivious happy wife. I finalized the catering for the baby shower. I ironed his shirts. I watched him text my sister under the dining room table, pretending I did not notice the smirk on his face. I let their arrogance inflate to the breaking point. Now, sitting in the secure silence of my Brickell penthouse, the memory of that morning fades away. The banking lockdown is fully active. Liam's corporate credit lines are severed. The first domino has fallen. My phone vibrates against the mahogany desk, breaking the quiet of the penthouse. I look at the glowing screen. The caller ID displays a name I have grown to despise over the last 4 years. Diane, Liam's mother. The initial shock of the baby shower confrontation has passed. Liam has retreated to his parents' house to regroup. Now the toxic in-laws are mobilizing their attack. Diane thinks she can intimidate me. She thinks a few harsh words will force me to apologize and hand over the deed to the waterfront mansion. I press the record button on my secure digital audio application. I slide the phone across the desk and answer the call on speaker, ready to let Diane hand me the exact ammunition I need to destroy her social standing. The sun climbs over Biscayne Bay, filling my Brickell penthouse with bright morning light. I sit at my mahogany desk, wrapping both hands around a warm mug of decaf coffee. My phone rests on the sleek wood surface. The screen lights up, buzzing in short, frantic bursts. I have 20 missed calls and 4 new voicemails. Liam has spent the night spinning his web. He retreated to his parents' estate in Coral Gables, crying on their shoulders, playing the victim of a deranged hormonal wife. He told them about the offshore bank account screenshot, but I know exactly how he framed it. He told them I fabricated the document to frame him because I was jealous of my sister. I tap the screen and open my voicemail inbox. The first audio file begins to play. Diane's voice fills the quiet office. She does not sound worried. She sounds triumphant. "Sophia, you need to listen to me very carefully. Diane begins, her tone dripping with polished country club disdain. Liam told us about your little stunt at the baby shower. Trying to extort my son with fake bank records is a new low, even for you. We always knew you were a mistake. You lack the pedigree for our social circle. You have no drive, no ambition, and no class. I take a slow sip of my coffee, letting her toxic words wash over me. Vanessa, on the other hand, understands our world. Diane continues, practically purring my sister's name. She has the look. She has the drive to stand beside a successful tech founder. She fits into Miami high society seamlessly. We are thrilled Liam finally woke up and chose a partner who elevates him instead of dragging him down into mediocrity. Pack your cheap clothes and get out of his house. The message clicks off. I do not flinch. I press a button on my recording software, saving the audio file directly into my encrypted legal drive. Diane is applauding the woman who slept with her married son. She is actively cheering for the destruction of her unborn grandchild's family just because Vanessa wears better designer labels. I tap the next voicemail. Richard's deep, arrogant voice booms from the speaker. Sophia, you have crossed a line you cannot uncross, Richard threatens. I have already contacted my legal team. These are top-tier litigators, not the cheap attorneys you could afford. If you try to drag my son through a messy divorce or spread lies about his company, we will bury you. We will ensure you walk away with nothing. You will not get a single dime of his startup money. You will not get the waterfront house. We are changing the locks today. Stay away from my family. I save his recording right next to his wife's. Diane and Richard are fascinating creatures. They parade around exclusive charity galas projecting the image of old money. They speak with unearned authority and look down their noses at anyone outside their zip code. But their aristocratic persona is a fragile house of cards built on top of Liam's fraudulent ledgers. Richard drives a brand new luxury sedan. Diane hosts lavish luncheons at a golf resort that charges exorbitant membership fees. They assume Liam pays for these perks out of his overflowing tech dividends. They proudly swipe the platinum credit cards their son provided, oblivious to the harsh reality of their situation. Those credit cards are tied directly to Vanguard Health corporate expense accounts. Their luxury car leases are guaranteed by the company. Their entire opulent lifestyle is heavily subsidized by the very federal grant money Liam and Vanessa just stole. By enthusiastically endorsing Liam's infidelity and celebrating my banishment, they have anchored themselves to a sinking ship. They think they are protecting a golden goose. They do not realize the federal government views those subsidized perks as receiving stolen property. When the FBI audits Vanguard Health, they will trace the stolen funds straight to Diane's country club dues and Richard's car payments. I drag the audio files into a subfolder labeled Complicit Parties. I am building a net so wide and so tight that none of them will escape the fallout. My phone buzzes again. It is not another voicemail. It is an automated alert from my banking software. The system notifies me that Liam is currently attempting to swipe his corporate credit card at a high-end jewelry boutique in South Beach. He is likely trying to buy Vanessa that tennis bracelet she thought was inside my silver gift box. He wants to reward her for standing by his side during my supposed mental breakdown. The screen displays the transaction amount, $12,000. I watch the pending status blink on my monitor. The corporate credit lines were severed hours ago when I revoked my anonymous guarantee. The bank's risk algorithms have already frozen his accounts. The status updates from pending to declined. I smile, taking another sip of my coffee. Liam is standing in a luxury boutique trying to flex his wealth for his mistress, only to have his card rejected. He will assume it is a temporary bank error. He will try a different card. That one will decline too. Panic will start to set in, but his ego will prevent him from seeing the truth. He will blame his accountant. He will blame a computer glitch. He will never suspect the pregnant wife he threw onto the street. The silence of the penthouse is shattered by a loud ping from my personal tablet. This is a different kind of notification. It is a social media tracking alert I set up months ago to monitor Vanessa's digital footprint. My sister lives her life for public consumption. She craves validation from strangers on the internet. I open the application. Vanessa has just gone live on her primary page. She is sitting on the plush white sofa in Liam's living room. She is wearing one of my favorite silk robes. Her makeup is styled to look intentionally messy, as if she has spent the entire morning crying. She holds a tissue in her manicured hand, dabbing at the corners of her eyes. I turn up the volume. Her voice fills my office, trembling with fake emotion. "I never thought I would have to make a video like this," Vanessa says to the camera, sniffing softly. "But the rumors are already starting, and I need to protect the people I love." My older sister Sophia suffered a severe psychological break yesterday. She attacked me and Liam at her own baby shower. I watched the viewer count on her video skyrocket. Hundreds of people are tuning in to watch her performance. She is twisting the knife, turning my private pain into content for her followers. She is monetizing her betrayal. She has been struggling with paranoia for weeks. Vanessa continues staring directly into the lens. The pregnancy hormones triggered something dark inside her. She made up horrible lies. She fabricated documents to try and ruin Liam's business. It was terrifying. I had to step in. I had to be strong for Liam. We had to ask her to leave for everyone's safety. The comment section is a blur of text. Strangers are sending her heart emojis. They are praising her bravery. They are calling me a toxic, dangerous woman. Vanessa is basking in the sympathy, elevating herself to the role of the tragic heroine who swooped in to save a successful man from his deranged wife. I do not post a comment. I do not report the video. Defending myself in the comment section of a liar's page is a tactic for the weak. I let her talk. I let her weave a narrative so public and so permanent that she will never be able to retract it. She leans closer to the camera, dropping her voice to a dramatic whisper. "Liam is doing his best to hold his company together while dealing with this trauma," Vanessa says. "I am staying here to help him manage the house and keep things stable. It is hard, but love requires sacrifice. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time." She ends the broadcast. The screen goes black. Vanessa thinks she has just won the public relations war. She thinks she has successfully ruined my reputation and secured her place as Miami's newest elite socialite. She plans to use this newfound attention to launch her lifestyle brand, funding her superficial dreams with the $5 million they stole from the federal government. She is currently operating under the delusion that the stolen money is sitting safely in her fake charity account. She assumes her offshore digital wallet is secure. She has no idea that a senior financial compliance auditor is currently looking at her routing numbers. I place my coffee mug on the desk. I crack my knuckles, staring at the dark screen of the tablet. My family has decided to use the internet to destroy me. It is time for me to use the global financial network to return the favor. I log into my forensic tracing software and target the primary checking account for the Azure Horizon initiative. Vanessa is about to learn that playing the victim online does not pay the bills when your assets suddenly evaporate into thin air. The view count on Vanessa's broadcast ticks past 20,000. Her fabricated story is no longer just a family rumor. It is a viral sensation spreading across the internet like a digital wildfire. I watch the numbers climb on my tablet screen. Strangers are leaving thousands of comments. They are diagnosing me with severe mental illnesses based entirely on the tears of a 26-year-old influencer. They are tagging mental health awareness pages. They are calling my sister a hero for stepping in to save a successful tech founder from a dangerous spouse. Vanessa is curating the narrative with terrifying efficiency. She deletes any comment asking for my side of the story. She only leaves the replies that praise her bravery and condemn my supposed insanity. My personal cell phone begins to vibrate against the mahogany desk. It rattles against the wood, demanding my attention. The caller ID flashes a name I have not seen in months: Aunt Helen. Helen is my mother's sister. She lives in a wealthy suburb of Orlando and spends her days gossiping with the rest of the extended family. I answer the call, pressing the phone to my ear without saying a word. "Sophia, thank goodness you picked up," Helen breathes into the receiver. Her voice is dripping with fake concern and breathless excitement. "Diane called me this morning. We saw Vanessa's video. Honey, we are all so worried about you. Diane said you had a terrible episode at the baby shower." I stare out the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse. The water of Biscayne Bay sparkles under the afternoon sun. "I am perfectly fine, Helen," I say. My voice is steady, devoid of any emotion for her to feed on. Helen sighs, adopting the patronizing tone of a disappointed parent. Sophia's denial is part of the illness. Liam is a good man. Vanessa is just trying to hold the family together while you get the help you need. We talked to some specialists down here. We can help Liam arrange a facility for you until the baby is born. You cannot be out on the streets in your condition. The betrayal stings, but it does not surprise me. Vanessa has played this exact game since we were children. Whenever she broke a vase or stole money from my bedroom, she would run to the adults with tears streaming down her face. She would manufacture a story where I was the cruel older sister bullying her. The adults always believed the crying pretty younger girl. They never looked at the facts. They only looked at the performance. This is just the adult version of the broken vase. Except this time the vase is a multi-million-dollar federal health care grant. I will not be needing a facility, Helen, I reply. I suggest you stop taking advice from the woman sleeping with my husband. I end the call before she can gasp or formulate a response. I block her number. Within 5 minutes, my phone lights up again. This time it is a cousin, then an old college roommate who follows Vanessa online. The smear campaign is gaining real traction. My family is building an echo chamber, reinforcing Liam's lie until it becomes their accepted reality. I switch my phone to silent and toss it across the desk. A sharp chime sounds from my primary workstation monitor. This is not a family member. This is a notification from my private equity firm's internal communication server. I open the encrypted email. It is from the managing partner of the firm. He forwards me a link to Vanessa's video. His message is brief and professionally cautious. He asks if I require a leave of absence to deal with a sudden family emergency. He mentions that the online noise could become a distraction if Vanguard health investors catch wind of the domestic drama. The threat to my professional reputation is real. If the equity firm believes I am unstable, they could revoke my proxy status. They could remove me from the Vanguard health portfolio to protect their own liabilities. Liam and Vanessa are inadvertently striking at the very foundation of my power. A lesser woman would panic. A lesser woman would immediately draft a frantic public statement begging her followers to believe the truth. She would post screenshots of the text messages and yell into the void of the internet, hoping someone would listen. I do not deal in public relations. I deal in financial consequences. I close the managing partner's email without replying. I turn my full attention to my forensic auditing software. I type the tax identification number for the Azure Horizon initiative into the search bar. Vanessa wants to play the wealthy, compassionate savior on the internet. I am going to remind her that fake tears do not pay the bills. The banking interface for her fake charity loads on my screen. I view the current balance. The $5 million stolen from the federal grant is resting securely in a domestic holding account waiting to be fully diverted to the Cayman Islands Shell Corporation. Vanessa assumes this money is hers to spend. She assumes she is untouchable. I bypass the public ledger and access the back-end compliance portal. Federal banking regulations require strict monitoring of all nonprofit organizations, especially those dealing with sudden, unverified influxes of millions of dollars. As a senior compliance auditor, I have the authority to trigger automated security reviews without revealing my identity. I click on the wire transfer initiating the purchase of the luxury yacht. I open a suspicious activity report. I check the boxes for potential wire fraud, international money laundering, and unverified grant diversion. I attach the routing numbers for the Cayman Islands Shell entity. I flag the primary account holder, Vanessa, for an immediate Know Your Customer verification failure. I press Submit. The digital report shoots through the encrypted financial network, landing directly in the automated risk department of Vanessa's host bank. I watch the screen. The process takes less than 60 seconds. The bank algorithms register the severe red flags associated with an offshore yacht purchase funded by a brand new charity. The system does exactly what it is programmed to do to protect the institution from federal liability. The status icon next to the Azure Horizon initiative changes from a bright green circle to a solid red square. The account is frozen. Every single cent of the stolen grant money is locked behind a digital wall. The bank will not release those funds until a thorough federal investigation is completed. I do not stop there. Vanessa linked her personal designer credit cards to that exact holding account, treating the charity like her own endless piggy bank. The bank's security protocols automatically sweep through associated ledgers. I watch as the status of her rose gold credit cards, her premium travel cards, and her checking accounts turn red one by one. The financial guillotine drops in total silence. I lean back in my ergonomic chair, interlacing my fingers. I allow myself a cold, genuine smile. Somewhere in Miami, Vanessa is stepping out of Liam's leased silver sports car. She is probably wearing her oversized designer sunglasses, wiping away her fake tears and walking into an exclusive boutique or an overpriced cafe. She is riding the high of her viral video. She feels powerful. She feels famous. She will walk up to the counter to pay for an iced latte or a silk scarf. She will pull out her shiny metal credit card with a smug smile. She will hand it to the cashier, fully expecting the machine to approve the transaction. The machine will beep, a harsh, rejecting sound. The cashier will look at her with an apologetic frown. Declined. Vanessa will laugh it off. She will tell the cashier to run it again. She will claim it is a simple chip error. The machine will beep again. Declined. She will reach into her designer purse, her heart beating a little faster, and pull out a different card. She will slide it into the reader. Declined. The embarrassment will wash over her. The people standing in line behind her will start to whisper. The wealthy influencer, the tragic heroine of the internet, unable to afford a cup of coffee. She will have no cash. Her entire fake existence is now bricked. Let her build the lie. Let her post the videos and gather the sympathy of thousands of strangers. The higher she climbs her imaginary ladder, the harder the concrete is going to feel when she finally hits the ground. My secure tablet emits a short, distinct tone. It is an encrypted messaging application I use exclusively for high-level corporate communications. I pick up the device and unlock the screen. The message is from Evelyn. Evelyn is the most ruthless corporate attorney in the state of Florida. She is my fiercest ally and the only person outside of my firm who knows my true identity as the silent proxy. She does not handle messy family law or simple divorces. She dismantles federal fraud rings and orchestrates hostile corporate takeovers. I read the text message. The words on the screen shift the entire battlefield. Liam just expedited the IPO presentation, Evelyn writes. He is panicking. He requested an emergency meeting with your equity board for next Thursday. He is pushing for an immediate $50 million buyout. He needs the cash to cover his tracks before the federal grant audit hits his desk. We need to finalize the trap. I lock the tablet. The smear campaign and the frozen credit cards are just pebbles on the road. The true execution is waiting in the boardroom. Liam thinks he is going to walk into that meeting and secure generational wealth from a room full of strangers. I turn back to my workstation and begin drafting the final legal maneuvers. I am going to let him step right into the center of the trap before I tear the walls down around him. I pick up the secure tablet and dial Evelyn's encrypted number. The line rings twice before she answers. Evelyn does not deal in pleasantries. She is a 55-year-old legal shark who wears tailored gray suits and dismantles federal fraud rings before breakfast. While other attorneys argue over alimony and custody arrangements, Evelyn orchestrates corporate takeovers and sends corrupt executives to prison. She is the only person outside my equity firm who knows my true operational capacity. Liam is running out of oxygen, Evelyn says, skipping a greeting. Her voice is crisp, echoing slightly in her high-rise corner office. His supplier accounts are bouncing. The vendor credit lines you pulled this morning triggered a cascading liquidity crisis across Vanguard Health. He is bleeding cash. He thinks the IPO will act as a tourniquet, I reply, pulling up his accelerated pitch schedule on my secondary monitor. He is terrified, Evelyn confirms, the sound of rustling paper filtering through the speaker. The government conducts random compliance checks on healthcare grants 30 days after disbursement. He knows the auditors will demand to see the ledger. He has a $5 million hole he cannot explain. So he requested an emergency meeting with your equity board for next Thursday. He wants a $50 million buyout to cover his tracks. Liam's desperation is palpable. He believes a swift acquisition will bury his embezzlement. If a larger entity buys Vanguard Health, the new accounting department will absorb the ledgers, allowing him to quietly replace the stolen funds using his founder's payout. It is a classic white-collar cover-up. He expects to walk into a boardroom filled with nameless, easily manipulated investors. He plans to flash his charismatic smile, show a few inflated projection charts, and walk out a multimillionaire. He has no clue that the private equity firm's majority shareholder is his discarded wife. We need to let him walk all the way into the snare I instruct, staring at the flashing red alerts on his suspended corporate accounts. Approve the meeting. Tell the board directors to act highly interested. I want him to spend the next week polishing his presentation, believing he is on the verge of a historic triumph. I will draft the whistleblower reports, Evelyn replies, her tone sharp with predatory anticipation. When you reveal your identity in that boardroom, the equity firm has a legal obligation to report his theft to the authorities. If we synchronize the filings, the FBI can have a warrant signed the moment he finishes his pitch. The poetry of this execution is flawless. For 4 years, Liam treated my career like an insignificant hobby. Whenever we attended his networking dinners, he introduced me as his supportive partner, patting my hand while telling his peers I handled basic data entry. He loved diminishing my intellect. It made him feel towering and essential. He fed off the illusion that I needed his startup money to survive. Now he is rushing to beg for salvation from the very woman he tried to throw away. What about the divorce proceedings, I ask, turning my attention to the domestic front. Diane and Richard are leaving threatening voicemails, claiming they hired top litigators to leave me destitute. Evelyn lets out a dry, humorless scoff. Let them waste their money on retainer fees. Their lawyers will abandon them the second the criminal indictments hit the public record. No respectable civil attorney wants to fight for assets that the government is actively seizing. We file the separation papers on the same day as the board meeting, a synchronized detonation. I agree to the timeline. The trap requires extreme patience. I must sit in my Brickell fortress for the next few days, watching Vanessa play the tragic victim online and listening to Liam spin his lies without retaliating prematurely. Premature retaliation is sloppy. A true predator waits until the prey is locked inside the cage before securing the door. We end the call. The silence of the penthouse settles around me. I spend the rest of the afternoon compiling the final pieces of the forensic dossier. Every forged signature, every unauthorized wire transfer, and every Cayman Islands routing number is organized into a devastating presentation. I format the slides to project seamlessly onto the towering screens inside the downtown boardroom. Liam expects to highlight his revenue charts. Instead, he will be narrating his own financial autopsy. As the sun sets over the Miami skyline, painting the clouds in bruised shades of purple and orange, my focus remains unbroken. I review the risk algorithms monitoring Vanessa's frozen charity accounts. She has stopped posting live videos. The realization that her designer cards are useless is likely setting in. The panic in their camp is growing. My concentration is shattered by a sudden harsh buzzing sound. It is the intercom system connecting my penthouse to the ground floor security desk. I frown. My address is unlisted. The building requires biometric clearance. Only a handful of vetted individuals know I reside here. I press the glowing button on the console. Yes, Ms. Williams, I apologize for the interruption. The security chief says, his tone tight with professional strain. There is a gentleman down here demanding to see you. He claims he has urgent legal documents that must be served in person. He is being quite loud. Who is he representing? I ask, my eyes narrowing. He says he represents your husband, Liam Williams, the guard replies. I lean back in my chair. Liam's arrogance is astounding. He truly believes he holds the upper hand. He has dispatched his attack dog to intimidate me. Instead of telling security to throw the man out into the street, I see an opportunity to send a very clear, terrifying message back to my husband's camp. Send him up, I instruct. I stand up from my desk and smooth the wrinkles from my loose cotton pants. I walk toward the grand foyer of the penthouse. The private elevator hums as it ascends 50 stories. I wait patiently, my hands resting lightly over my pregnant stomach. The polished steel doors slide open. A man steps into my foyer. He wears an ill-fitting pinstripe suit and carries a scuffed leather briefcase. He reeks of cheap cologne and desperation. This is not a top-tier litigator. This is a bottom-feeding real estate lawyer hired to do Liam's dirty work. He looks around the sprawling, hyper-secure luxury penthouse, his eyes widening as he processes the imported marble floors and original artwork. This is not the cheap clinic Liam told him to find. He recovers his false bravado quickly, puffing out his chest and stepping forward. "Sophia Williams," he asks, pulling a thick manila envelope from his briefcase. "I am here on behalf of my client. You are hereby served with a formal eviction notice." He thrusts the envelope toward me. "My client owns the waterfront property in Coral Gables. You are currently classified as a hostile trespasser. You have 24 hours to relinquish your key and remove any remaining personal items, or we will have law enforcement forcibly remove you." He offers a sleazy, condescending grin, expecting me to break down in tears. He expects a terrified, helpless housewife. I do not reach for his envelope. I look at him with a cold, hollow stare. He is stepping onto a battlefield he does not comprehend, carrying a useless piece of paper. He is about to learn that his confident client is not a wealthy tech founder, but a radioactive felon. And I am about to hand this lawyer a document that will make him sprint out of my building in sheer terror. The lawyer stands in my foyer holding the manila eviction envelope. I do not reach out to take it. I let his extended arm hang in the empty space between us. The silence stretches, filling the high ceilings of the penthouse with a thick, suffocating tension. He shifts his weight from one foot to the other. His cheap cologne smells like rubbing alcohol and artificial cedar. "I am talking to you, Miss Williams," he says, attempting to inject a commanding authority into his voice. "You have 24 hours to vacate the premises in Coral Gables. My client is reclaiming his property." "What is your name?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "David Trent," he replies, puffing out his chest. "I am senior counsel for your husband." I look at the frayed stitching on his lapel and the scuffed toes of his loafers. Liam did not hire a top-tier litigator. Premium attorneys require pristine financial backgrounds and hefty wire transfers before they even answer a phone call. Liam hired a strip mall lawyer because his legitimate corporate accounts are frozen. David Trent is a bargain bin attorney trying to play in the major leagues, eager to collect a fee from a man he assumes is a wealthy tech genius. I turn my back on him. "Excuse me," David sputters, his false confidence faltering. "You cannot just ignore a legal mandate. If you refuse to take this envelope, I will document your non-compliance." I walk across the imported marble floor to a floating glass console table near the window. Resting on the clear surface is a slim black folder. I prepared this exact file the moment Evelyn warned me about Liam's frantic legal maneuvers. I pick up the folder, turn around, and hand it to David. He looks at the black cover, hesitating. Curiosity overcomes his bravado. He tucks the eviction envelope under his arm and opens the folder. "You just threatened to call law enforcement to remove me from the property," I say, leaning against the glass table. "Look at the first page." David pulls out the crisp sheet of paper. It is the original, unaltered digital deed to the waterfront mansion. During the early days of our relationship, Liam bragged constantly about his upcoming tech acquisitions. I listened to his grand visions while quietly reviewing his flawed business plans. I knew the high failure rate of medical startups. As a compliance auditor, I mitigate risk for a living. I refuse to tie my personal financial stability to his volatile ambitions. When I purchased that house using my premarital assets, I routed the transaction through a blind trust. I handled the paperwork in total silence. I allowed Liam to list himself as an authorized occupant to stroke his fragile ego. He wanted to play the role of the wealthy provider for his parents. He never actually read the closing documents. He just signed where the broker pointed, assuming his startup seed money covered the massive down payment. David reads the state seal and the trust ownership details. His arrogant smile drops instantly. He realizes the eviction notice tucked under his arm is a useless piece of trash. He cannot evict the legal owner of a property on behalf of a guest. "My client assured me he held the deed," David stammers. The color drains from his cheeks. "Your client is a liar," I reply, "but that is the least of your problems today. Flip to the second page." David turns the page. His eyes scan the printed banking ledger. It shows a direct wire transfer from Vanguard Health into his own law firm's operating account. Liam paid your retainer yesterday morning, I explain, keeping my tone surgical and precise. $10,000 to draft a few threatening letters and serve a baseless eviction notice. This is standard legal compensation, David argues, though his voice wavers. Look at the routing origin, I instruct. David traces the printed numbers with his index finger. The funds did not originate from Liam's personal checking account. The money flowed from a federal health care grant passed through a fake charity registered by my sister and landed directly in David's lap. That $10,000 is embezzled government money, I state. My husband and my sister forged my digital signature to steal a federal grant. They are currently under investigation. When the FBI audits the Vanguard Health ledgers, they will track every single stolen dollar. They will see that you accepted the proceeds of a federal crime as payment for your services. The blood vanishes from David's face. His skin turns a sickly shade of gray. As an attorney, he knows exactly what this means. The federal government tracks healthcare grants with forensic precision. Accepting stolen government funds is a felony. It will trigger an immediate suspension of his license by the Florida bar. The authorities will freeze his firm's accounts. He will face disbarment and potential prison time just for taking Liam on as a client. I had no idea, David whispers, his hands shaking so hard the black folder rattles. Ignorance is not a valid defense in a federal court, I remind him. You just walked into my home and threatened me on behalf of a radioactive felon. You are holding toxic assets. Self-preservation takes over. David drops the manila eviction envelope onto the marble floor. It lands with a soft, pathetic slap. He shoves the deed and the banking ledgers back into his scuffed briefcase, snapping the brass locks shut with frantic, trembling fingers. I am formally withdrawing as his counsel, David stammers, backing away toward the private elevator. I will return the retainer to the Origin account this afternoon. I want nothing to do with Liam Williams or Vanguard Health. A very wise career move, I say. David hits the elevator call button multiple times, panting like a cornered animal. The steel doors slide open. He practically sprints inside, pressing himself against the back wall as the doors close, shielding him from my gaze. I stand alone in the quiet foyer. I look down at the discarded eviction notice resting on the floor. Liam sent an attack dog to intimidate me. The dog just ran away with its tail between its legs. My husband is now legally blind. He has no representation. He has no defense strategy. His towering ego prevents him from seeking the truth. He will sit in his parents' house, assuming his lawyer is handling the dirty work, entirely unaware that the shield he tried to raise just shattered into 1,000 pieces. He is defenseless, and the trap is tightening. I walk back to my office and check the social media tracking application on my tablet. Vanessa is distracting herself from her declining credit cards by focusing on her new toy. She just posted a digital invitation to her followers. Tomorrow evening, Liam and Vanessa are hosting an engagement party on the 70-foot luxury yacht they purchased with the stolen grant money. They are docking the vessel at an exclusive marina in South Beach. They plan to drink champagne toast to their new life and mock my absence while standing on a floating piece of criminal evidence. Diane and Richard are on the guest list. They are all gathering in one place, eager to celebrate a victory they have not earned. They expect to sail into the sunset. They do not realize I hold the heavy iron anchor, and I am preparing to drop it right through the hull. The glow of the tablet screen is the only light in my home office. I sit in the leather chair watching my sister host a party on a vessel purchased with stolen government funds. The live stream is titled, "A New Chapter." Vanessa holds her phone high, capturing the golden hour sunset reflecting off the pristine white hull of a 70-foot yacht docked at an exclusive South Beach marina. The vessel is named the Azure Dream. She bought it using the fake charity account just hours before I triggered the banking freeze. Vanessa spins in a circle, showing off the teakwood deck. She wears a white silk dress resembling a bridal gown. A diamond ring catches the lens flare. It is a cubic zirconia fake Liam likely purchased from a discount jeweler after his corporate cards declined. Vanessa does not know the difference. She flaunts the stone to her thousands of viewers, claiming Liam surprised her with a spontaneous engagement proposal to celebrate their new life. Music thumps in the background. A hired crew in matching white uniforms carries silver trays of champagne flutes through a crowd of Miami socialites. These are the hangers-on, the superficial acquaintances who flock to whoever is currently spending the most money. They clink glasses and pose for pictures. Liam steps into the frame. He wears a tailored linen suit with the top 3 buttons of his shirt undone. He wraps his arm around Vanessa, pulling her close. He holds a crystal glass in his free hand. He looks directly into the camera lens with a smug, confident grin. "To the future," Liam says, raising his glass. "Sometimes you have to cut the dead weight to let the ship sail." He takes a sip. Vanessa giggles, pressing her cheek against his shoulder. "We are so blessed," Vanessa tells her followers. "Liam is a genius. Tomorrow morning is the biggest day of his career. He is finalizing a historic buyout for his tech company. We are moving up in the world. Thank you all for supporting us through the recent family toxicity." The chat window scrolls with fire emojis and congratulatory messages. Strangers are celebrating my replacement. In the background of the shot, Diane and Richard lean against the polished mahogany railing. Diane wears a wide-brimmed sun hat and oversized designer sunglasses. She holds a martini, gesturing grandly to another couple. Richard puffs on a thick cigar, acting like a seasoned maritime aristocrat. I watch my in-laws bask in the stolen glory. When Liam and I first started dating, he drove a rusted sedan and struggled to pay his half of the rent. Richard and Diane never offered us a dime. They spent their modest pensions trying to keep up appearances at their local country club. I was the one who managed our budget. I built the financial foundation that allowed Liam to take the risk of starting a business. I sacrificed my own comfort to ensure he had the resources to chase his dream. Now his parents stand on a multi-million-dollar yacht, acting as though this wealth is their birthright. They truly believe their son is a self-made titan. They have no concept of the reality resting just beneath the surface of the water. I shift my gaze to the secondary monitor on my desk. A highly classified maritime registry database is open. The 70-foot yacht was registered under the shell corporation Vanessa created. Because I flagged the parent charity for severe federal wire fraud, the Treasury Department generated a seizure warrant for all associated physical assets. As the senior compliance auditor who initiated the alert, I hold the regulatory authority to execute that warrant. I can pick up my phone, dial the local Coast Guard detachment, and furnish the routing numbers. A tactical maritime unit would dispatch within 15 minutes. They would swarm the marina, board the vessel, and order every guest onto the dock. I imagine the scene. The flashing blue lights reflecting off the water, Vanessa screaming as federal officers confiscate her phone, Liam dropping his champagne glass while men in uniform secure the deck, Diane shrinking in humiliation as her elite friends watch the authorities lock the yacht. It is a tempting thought. The instant gratification is right at my fingertips, but I pull my hand away from the phone. A quiet repossession on a Tuesday evening is a minor inconvenience. It is a local news story that Liam could spin. He is a master manipulator. He would tell his investors that there was a clerical error with the charity registration. He would claim a rogue accountant made a mistake. He would hire a crisis management team to bury the narrative. I do not want a temporary embarrassment. I demand a total, permanent slaughter. If I wait until tomorrow morning, everything changes. Tomorrow, Liam walks into the towering glass boardroom of my private equity firm. He intends to pitch Vanguard Health to the executive board. He plans to hand over his falsified ledgers and ask for $50 million. The moment he presents those forged documents to a room of regulated investors, his crime stops being a simple case of domestic embezzlement. It elevates into major corporate fraud. Pitching a stolen asset to a licensed equity board carries distinct federal penalties. It seals his intent. It turns his desperate cover-up into a verifiable scheme to defraud institutional investors. I let the live broadcast play. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in dark shades of violet. The string lights on the yacht illuminate the party. Liam is dancing with Vanessa. He is sweating through his linen suit. His smile is slightly rigid. The panic of his frozen credit cards is gnawing at his stomach, but he buries it under the champagne. He believes the upcoming initial public offering pitch is his life raft. He thinks tomorrow will erase his sins. He does not know the life raft is made of lead. I reach out and close the tablet. The screen goes black, cutting off the music and the fake laughter. The quiet of the penthouse returns, wrapping around me like a protective shield. I stand up from the mahogany desk. I walk down the long hallway toward my master bedroom. The baby kicks against my ribs, a sharp reminder of the future I am protecting. I place my hand over my stomach, taking a slow, steady breath. I open the heavy doors of my walk-in closet. The automated lights flicker on, illuminating rows of professional attire. I bypass the soft maternity dresses and the casual weekend wear. I walk directly to the back of the closet where I keep my executive garments. I reach out and slide a heavy wooden hanger from the rack. It is a tailored navy blue suit. The fabric is sharp, the cut is unforgiving, and the silhouette commands immediate respect. I selected this specific suit months ago for my quarterly board presentations. It is the armor of a woman who dictates terms and controls capital. I carry the suit into the bedroom and hang it carefully on the back of the door. I retrieve a crisp white blouse and a pair of sensible dark heels. I arrange them with methodical precision. Tomorrow, I will not be the discarded wife. I will not be the emotional pregnant woman they mocked at the baby shower. I will be the senior compliance director and majority proxy of the firm that holds Liam's entire existence in its hands. I walk into the master bathroom and turn on the faucet. I splash cold water onto my face, looking at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes are clear, my mind is sharp. The grief is gone, replaced by a relentless, unyielding focus. Liam and Vanessa have swallowed the bait. They are sleeping on a stolen yacht, dreaming of billions. They feel untouchable. I turn off the lights and get into bed. I close my eyes, knowing that when the sun rises, the illusion ends. The trap is locked, the execution is scheduled. Tomorrow morning, I tear their world down. The morning sun strikes the towering glass facade of the private equity firm in downtown Miami. Inside the 50th floor executive boardroom, the air conditioning hums, keeping the temperature deliberately cold. A long, polished mahogany table dominates the center of the room, surrounded by ergonomic leather chairs. The heavy glass doors swing open. Liam strides into the room. He wears a bespoke charcoal suit, the fabric crisp and tailored to project undeniable authority. Beside him walks Vanessa. She wears a tight, white designer dress better suited for a South Beach nightclub than a corporate acquisition meeting. She clutches a luxury handbag, the price tag funded by the very federal grant money currently frozen in her bank account. Diane and Richard follow close behind. Diane adjusts her silk scarf, turning up her nose at the minimalist decor. Richard walks with his chest puffed out, surveying the boardroom like a conquering king. They claim seats in the back row, arranging themselves to watch their golden boy secure generational wealth. They do not belong here. They are suburban grifters trespassing in an arena built for apex predators. The firm's senior partners file into the room. They wear dark, tailored suits. They do not smile. They take their seats in synchronized silence, opening their digital portfolios. Evelyn sits near the head of the table. She holds a sleek tablet, at her face an unreadable mask. She knows exactly what is about to happen. Liam steps up to the podium at the front of the room. He connects his laptop to the projection system. I watch this entire feed through the encrypted security cameras from my penthouse, preparing for my cue. A single bead of sweat forms at Liam's temple. He wipes it away quickly. His vendor accounts are frozen. His corporate credit cards declined yesterday. He is bleeding cash, and he knows this $50 million buyout is his only life raft. He must secure this capital to replace the federal grant funds before the government auditors arrive. He forces a bright, charismatic smile. He projects a slide displaying the Vanguard Health logo. He clears his throat and begins speaking. Liam talks about innovation. He preaches about ethical healthcare solutions. He speaks at length regarding the integrity of his medical supply chain. The hypocrisy is staggering. He is pitching a company he hollowed out to buy a 70-foot yacht for his mistress. He stands in front of seasoned financial veterans and lies without blinking. Vanessa sits in the front row holding her phone up. She records his speech to post online later. She wants her followers to see her playing the supportive partner of a tech titan. She smiles, playing the role of the dutiful future wife, oblivious to the federal agents gathering evidence against her fake charity. Liam changes the slide. He shows a graph of projected revenue growth. The lines curve sharply upward, depicting a thriving, unstoppable enterprise. The numbers are pure fiction, padded by the stolen funds. He pauses, looking around the room, trying to connect with the stoic executives. He leans into the microphone. Reaching the next level of success requires ruthless dedication, Liam tells the board, his voice dropping into a serious, rehearsed cadence. A true leader must eliminate distractions. I recently restructured my personal life to ensure maximum focus on Vanguard Health. I cut out the dead weight. I removed toxic elements from my home so I could dedicate every waking hour to this company and to our future partners. He is calling his pregnant wife a toxic distraction to impress a room full of people I pay. He thinks insulting the mother of his child makes him sound like a dedicated visionary. He expects the executives to nod in approval. The partners exchange brief, subtle glances. Evelyn taps her stylus against her screen. She knows exactly who that deadweight is. The executives remain silent, letting him dig his grave deeper. Liam reaches the final slide. The requested $50 million acquisition figure glows on the glowing screen. He states that Vanguard Health is ready to merge with a larger entity. He says he is prepared to sign the transfer documents today. He turns off the projector, stepping away from the podium with a proud, triumphant posture. Diane and Richard beam from the back row. Richard claps his hands together once a loud echoing sound in the quiet room. He looks around, expecting the executives to join in a round of applause. No one claps. The managing partner, a silver-haired man with a piercing gaze, presses a button on his console to activate his microphone. Mr. Williams, the managing partner, says, his tone perfectly flat. The executive committee has reviewed your prospectus. We understand your desire for an expedited acquisition. Liam buttons his suit jacket, standing tall. I appreciate your time, he replies smoothly. Vanguard Health is a prime asset. We are ready to finalize the paperwork this morning. A buyout of this magnitude requires specific authorization, the managing partner continues, steepling his fingers. This firm does not issue $50 million disbursements based solely on a committee vote. The final signature must come directly from our majority shareholder. Liam nods, eager to close the deal. I understand. Where do I send the documents to? The managing partner shakes his head. The proxy director prefers to remain anonymous during preliminary negotiations. However, given the unusual speed of your request, she has decided to attend this specific meeting in person. She wants to look you in the eye before she signs away the capital. Liam's face lights up. He assumes this anonymous billionaire is just another investor he can charm with a handshake and a fake smile. He has spent his entire adult life manipulating wealthy people. He thinks this is just one final hurdle. Vanessa puts her phone down, sitting up straight, preparing to flash her brightest influencer smile for the incoming billionaire. Diane and Richard lean forward in their chairs, eager to watch their son claim his final victory. We are waiting for her arrival now, the managing partner states, checking his watch. I look forward to meeting her, Liam says, his voice dripping with unearned confidence. Liam turns his gaze toward the heavy oak doors at the back of the boardroom. He waits eagerly for the billionaire gatekeeper to walk in. He expects an elderly heiress or a detached corporate shark. He anticipates a woman he can charm, flatter, and deceive. He stands at the pinnacle of his fabricated empire, surrounded by the family members who cheered for my destruction. They are ready to celebrate. They are ready to pop the champagne. The brass handles on the heavy boardroom doors begin to turn. The heavy oak doors at the back of the boardroom swung inward. The brass hinges produced a low groan that echoed across the silent room. I stepped over the threshold. The air conditioning inside the corporate suite was freezing, but I felt a distinct radiating heat spreading through my chest. I wore the tailored navy suit I had selected the night before. The fabric hugged my shoulders with rigid precision. My crisp white blouse buttoned high to the collar. Carrying a 7-month pregnancy did not hinder my stride or weaken my posture. It amplified my presence. I walked into the freezing corporate arena looking like a woman who controlled the building. Because in many ways I did. Liam stood at the podium at the far end of the long mahogany table. His charismatic grin froze in place, then shattered like brittle glass hitting concrete. His eyes widened, failing to process the visual information standing before him. The small plastic laser pointer slipped from his damp fingers. It hit the hardwood floor, bouncing twice. The sharp clatter rang out through the dead, quiet room. In the front row, Vanessa lowered her smartphone. Her mouth opened in a silent gasp. She clutched her luxury handbag against her chest as if it could shield her from reality. Diane and Richard shifted in their seats at the back of the room. Diane gripped her silk scarf and her face flushing with instant outrage. They expected building security to rush in and drag me away. They assumed I had tracked Liam down to beg for his affection in front of his wealthy investors. Liam found his voice. It cracked with sudden panic and raw fury. "What are you doing here?" he shouted, pointing a shaking finger at me. He turned his attention to the managing partner seated near the center of the table. "I am so sorry about this disturbance. This is my estranged wife. She is unwell. She has been stalking me. Please call the guards and have her escorted out of the building." None of the executives reached for a telephone. No one pressed a panic button. The managing partner sat perfectly still, steepling his fingers, watching the scene unfold with clinical detachment. Evelyn, my fierce legal ally, stood up from her chair. The fabric of her tailored gray suit rustled in the quiet room. Following her lead, every single senior partner at the table rose to their feet in unison. They did not look at Liam. They did not acknowledge his frantic demands. They looked at me. I ignored my husband. I kept my eyes focused straight ahead, walking the length of the long mahogany table. My sensible dark heels clicked a steady rhythmic beat against the polished floor. As I passed the executives, they offered subtle, respectful nods. I reached the head of the table. Evelyn reached out and pulled back the heavy leather chair reserved for the highest-ranking official in the room. I took my seat. Only then did the rest of the board sit back down. Liam gripped the edges of his wooden podium. His knuckles turned stark white. His brain struggled to bridge the gap between his fabricated reality and the nightmare unfolding before his eyes. "What is happening right now?" Liam demanded, his voice dropping into a desperate, confused plea. "Why are you letting her sit there? She is having a psychological episode. She needs a hospital, not a boardroom seat." The managing partner leaned into his desktop microphone. "Mr. Williams, you requested an emergency meeting with our anonymous majority shareholder," the older man stated, his tone devoid of any warmth or sympathy. "You insisted on securing her final approval for your $50 million buyout." Evelyn reached into her briefcase. She withdrew a heavy brass nameplate and slid it across the polished wood. The metal scraped softly against the table, coming to a halt directly in front of my hands. The engraved black letters faced outward for the entire room to read: Sophia Williams, Senior Compliance Director and Majority Proxy. The realization struck Liam with the force of a physical blow to the chest. He staggered backward, his shoulder hitting the digital projection screen. The glowing revenue charts illuminated his pale, sweating face. He stared at the brass nameplate. His eyes darted from the engraved letters to my face, then back to the letters. He stopped breathing. The woman he had banished from a waterfront mansion with a cheap prepaid gas station card was the exact billionaire gatekeeper he was currently begging for survival. For 4 years, Liam treated my career as an insignificant joke. He introduced me at networking dinners as his humble administrative assistant. He patted my hand and told his friends I lacked the drive to succeed in the corporate world. He loved that false narrative. He fed on the illusion of his own superiority. He needed to believe I relied on his startup money to survive. Now standing in a room full of financial sharks, the truth crushed him. I was the silent entity who approved his seed funding years ago. I was the anonymous force guaranteeing his vendor credit lines. I held the keys to his entire fabricated empire. I built his throne in the dark, and I was the one who just locked the gates. In the front row, Vanessa dropped her phone. It hit the floor face down. She did not bother to pick it up. She looked at Liam, waiting for him to fix the situation. She expected her wealthy tech founder to assert his dominance and throw me out. But Liam looked like a terrified, trapped child. Vanessa realized her offshore bank accounts were not frozen by a random glitch. She realized her older sister, the woman whose husband she stole, was the apex predator holding her financial life in the palm of her hand. Diane and Richard sat frozen in the back row. Richard lowered his head, staring at his expensive leather shoes. The country club dues, the leased luxury sedans, the extravagant charity dinners, all of it rested on the approval of the daughter-in-law they had constantly mocked and degraded. Diane lost her fake aristocratic posture. She slouched in her chair, her breathing shallow and rapid. They had cheered for my destruction. They had left voicemails celebrating my banishment. Now they were trapped in a room with their executioner. Liam tried to pivot. He was a salesman, a skilled manipulator who always believed he could talk his way out of any corner. He forced a weak, trembling smile. He stepped away from the projector, holding his hands up in a gesture of surrender. "Sophia," he stammered, his voice laced with false affection, "this is quite a surprise. You never told me you held this position. Why did you hide this from me? We are partners. We are building a family together." I rested my hands on my pregnant stomach. "We are not partners, Liam," I said. My voice was calm, cutting through the freezing air of the boardroom like a scalpel. "You severed our partnership the moment you decided to steal federal grant money to buy my sister a yacht." Liam shook his head rapidly, denying the accusation in front of the investors. "I do not know what you are talking about. The grant money is secure. Vanguard Health is a pristine operation. You are letting personal emotions cloud your business judgment. I am offering this firm a historic return on investment." He still thought he could lie his way to the finish line. He still believed the forged documents were hidden deep inside his encrypted servers. He assumed the private equity board would prioritize profits over a domestic dispute. He thought I was just a scorned wife trying to embarrass him with baseless claims. I picked up a small digital remote from the center of the table. "You brought a presentation today," I told him, looking dead into his terrified eyes, "but your numbers are inaccurate. Allow me to provide the board with the correct data." I pressed the override button. The large screens behind him flickered, replacing his fake revenue charts with a different set of documents. I was preparing to perform a financial autopsy on his dying company, and I intended to show the investors every single severed artery. The digital projector hums above the mahogany table. The vibrant, upward-curving revenue lines on the screen vanish. A stark, black-and-white federal routing document takes their place. Liam taps the spacebar on his laptop, assuming the system experienced a technical glitch. He presses the keys harder, his breath catching in his throat. The screen remains locked on my forensic dossier. I place the remote down. "Vanguard Health did not generate a 30% increase in third-quarter profits," I state, keeping my voice level and surgical. "The company is currently operating at a $5 million deficit." The executives around the table lean forward. They are seasoned equity partners. They smell blood in the water. "That is a clerical error," Liam stammers. He steps in front of the projection screen as if he can physically block the truth from their eyes. "We allocated those funds for overseas research and development. The supply chain logistics are complex." Sophia does not understand the daily operations. She is confused. I press the next button on my console. The screen shifts to the official federal disbursement ledger. $10 million in taxpayer capital allocated by the government to develop sterile surgical equipment. I highlight the outgoing wire transfer executed exactly 14 days ago. $5 million routed directly into a private holding account. I look at the managing partner. Federal guidelines dictate that a transfer of this magnitude requires dual authorization, I explain. The founder must sign and the financial guarantor must countersign. The projection changes again. The federal release form appears magnified so every executive can read the fine print. Sitting on the bottom authorization line is my digital signature. Liam wipes his forehead with the back of his hand. His pristine charcoal suit suddenly looks suffocating. He opens his mouth to speak, but no words come out. He stares at his own forged handiwork displayed for the city's most ruthless financiers. "I was attending a prenatal wellness retreat in Naples on the date this document was signed," I inform the room. "I was 200 miles away." I pull up the metadata extracted from the digital signature file. The IP address glows in bright red text. The location ping matches the router installed in our Coral Gables residence. My husband accessed my secured credentials while I slept in another city. He stole $5 million from the federal government and left a paper trail pointing directly to his pregnant wife. A collective murmur ripples through the boardroom. The senior partners exchange dark, calculating glances. Pitching an inflated company is a standard business hazard. Pitching a company built on active federal fraud makes every person in the room an accessory if they fail to report it. They realize the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Department of Justice are about to descend on Vanguard Health. Vanessa shrinks into her front row seat. She pulls her luxury handbag onto her lap, trying to make herself as small as possible. She wants the floor to open and swallow her whole. Where did the money go? I asked the room, steering the autopsy to its most devastating chapter. Did it fund overseas medical research? Did it purchase raw materials to benefit the American healthcare system? I switched the slide. The registration documents for a nonprofit organization called the Azure Horizon Initiative fill the screen. I highlight the board of directors. The sole registered agent is Vanessa. I gesture toward my sister. The aspiring social media influencer sitting in the front row is the gatekeeper of the stolen capital. Evelyn stands up. She retrieves a stack of thick-bound folders from her leather briefcase. She walks a slow circuit around the mahogany table, placing a certified copy of the bank records in front of each executive. The paper trail is verified, notarized, and legally binding. If you turn to page 4, Evelyn instructs the board, her tone sharp and authoritative, you will see the primary purchase agreement executed by this charity. The executives flip through the crisp pages. The rustling of paper sounds like a ticking clock marking the end of Liam's freedom. The screen updates to show a maritime bill of sale, a 70-foot luxury vessel registered in the Cayman Islands, jointly owned by Liam and Vanessa. My husband hollowed out his medical supply company to buy a yacht for his mistress, I state. He planned to use your $50 million buyout to quietly replace the missing government funds before the federal compliance officers arrived for their 30-day audit. He brought a radioactive felony into your boardroom and asked you to finance the cover-up. The silence in the corporate suite turns venomous. The managing partner closes his folder, his jaw set in a rigid line of fury. These are men and women who protect their capital with lethal efficiency. They recognize the sheer audacity of Liam's scheme. He tried to play them for fools. In the back row, Diane and Richard undergo a horrifying transformation. The smug, aristocratic posture vanishes. Diane clutches the arms of her chair. Her chest heaves as she struggles to draw breath. The reality of the presentation strips away her country club illusion. She looks at the screen, then looks at her son standing paralyzed at the podium. Liam is not a brilliant tech visionary. He is a common thief. She realizes her wealthy friends will see this on the evening news. Her social standing is dead. Richard stares blankly at the floor. The luxury car he drives, the extravagant dinners he hosts, the platinum credit cards in his wallet, they are all subsidized by the Vanguard health expense accounts. He realizes the federal government will track every stolen dollar. The authorities will see that he benefited from embezzled taxpayer money. The FBI will seize his assets. He will lose his home. He will face interrogations. His entire suburban royalty act has shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. Liam takes a trembling step away from the podium. He looks at Evelyn, then looks at the managing partner. He reaches up and loosens his silk tie, struggling to breathe in the freezing room. "This is a misunderstanding," Liam pleads, his voice cracking under the crushing weight of the evidence. "Sophia is twisting the data. The yacht was a corporate asset. It was intended for high-level client entertainment. I can fix the ledgers. Give me a week. Give me 3 days. I can restructure the debt." The managing partner does not answer. He picks up his desk phone, his eyes locked on Liam with unyielding contempt. Vanessa jumps out of her chair. The illusion of the supportive, loving partner evaporates the moment true danger arrives. Self-preservation takes over. "He forced me to sign those papers," Vanessa shrieks, pointing a shaking acrylic nail at Liam. "I did not know where the money came from. He told me it was a gift. He manipulated me." "Shut up," Liam snaps, dropping his charismatic facade entirely. His face twists into an ugly, desperate snarl. "You begged for that boat. You spent $30,000 on clothes yesterday using the charity account. You knew exactly what we were doing." Their fragile alliance crumbles in front of the city's most powerful investors. They turn on each other like starved animals fighting over scraps. The boardroom becomes an arena of mutual destruction. They yell, pointing fingers, airing their toxic greed for the equity board to witness. I sit at the head of the table, resting my hands over my child, watching the architects of my betrayal tear themselves apart. I do not raise my voice. I do not shed a tear. I simply let the undeniable facts suffocate their lies. But presenting the evidence is only the first phase of the execution. Denying the buyout is not enough. Ruining his reputation is a mild consequence. I promised myself I would orchestrate an inescapable conclusion. Evelyn closes her briefcase. She looks at me and gives a single, sharp nod. The legal threshold has been met. The private equity firm is now statutorily required to act to protect its own licensing. Liam continues to argue with Vanessa, his voice echoing off the glass walls, entirely unaware that the final trap door is about to open beneath his feet. The toxic atmosphere inside the boardroom thickens, choking the oxygen from the air. Liam stands at the wooden podium, his eyes darting frantically between the unblinking executives and the projected federal routing numbers on the wall. He searches the faces of the senior partners, looking for a shred of sympathy or a willingness to negotiate. He finds nothing but cold, calculating disgust. These financial veterans manage billions in institutional wealth. They do not negotiate with exposed thieves. The realization hits Liam with physical force. The $50 million buyout is a phantom. His startup is ruined. The government audit is inevitable. The carefully constructed facade of the brilliant, untouchable tech founder shatters into jagged pieces. His knees buckle. The bespoke charcoal suit crumples as he drops to the floor. The heavy thud echoes across the polished hardwood. He abandons the podium and crawls toward the head of the mahogany table. He stops mere inches from my leather chair. He looks up at me, his face slick with sweat, his eyes wide with a frantic, desperate panic. The arrogant man who tossed a prepaid gas station card at my feet just days ago is gone. In his place kneels a pathetic, broken fraud. "Sophia, please," Liam begs, his voice cracking into a high, strained whine. He reaches out, attempting to grasp my hand. I pull my arm back, resting my hands firmly over my pregnant stomach, protecting our child from his toxic touch. "You have to help me," he pleads, tears spilling over his eyelashes. "I made a terrible mistake. The pressure of running Vanguard Health broke my judgment. I panicked. I just wanted to provide a beautiful life for you and the baby. I love you. We can fix this. Just authorize the buyout and I will pay the grant money back tomorrow. I swear, on my life." The lie is so transparent it borders on insulting. He tries to weaponize our unborn child to save his own skin. He hopes I will revert to the obedient, supportive wife who manages his messes. Before I can formulate a response, a shrill, piercing scream tears through the room. Vanessa leaps out of her front row seat. Her survival instinct overrides any remaining loyalty to the man kneeling on the floor. My sister grew up mastering the art of deflecting blame. Whenever she broke a rule or damaged property as a teenager, she immediately pointed her finger at someone else, utilizing fake tears to escape punishment. Confronted with the terrifying reality of a federal prison sentence, she reverts to her oldest tactic. "He made me do it," Vanessa shrieks, pointing a shaking acrylic nail at Liam. She steps away from him, distancing her white designer dress from his kneeling form. She looks around the room, pleading with the silent equity partners. "I do not know anything about federal healthcare grants," Vanessa cries, her voice echoing off the glass walls. "I am just an influencer." Liam set up the charity. He handed me the digital forms and told me where to sign. He said the money was a legal dividend from his startup. He manipulated me. He used my name to hide his theft. I am a victim. Liam whips his head around, staring at her in sheer disbelief. The united front they projected on their stolen yacht evaporates in seconds. "You begged for that boat?" Liam snarls, his sorrow instantly transforming into vicious rage. "You spent $30,000 on clothes yesterday using the charity checking account. You knew exactly where the cash came from. You helped me forge her signature. You are a liar," Vanessa screams back, stomping her designer heel against the floor. "You ruined life." They turn on each other like starved animals trapped in a cage. They yell insults across the boardroom, airing their greed and mutual deception for the city's most elite financiers to witness. They point fingers, each desperate to throw the other under the bus to save themselves. The senior partners watch the domestic carnage with unadulterated revulsion. The managing partner shakes his head, rubbing his temples, disgusted by the sheer lack of dignity on display. In the back row, Richard attempts to salvage a fraction of his family pride. He stands up, his face flushing a deep, angry crimson. "Liam, stand up right now," Richard orders, his voice trembling with embarrassment. "Stop groveling on the floor. Be a man." Liam ignores his father, keeping his desperate gaze fixed on me. Diane remains glued to her chair. She covers her mouth with trembling hands. Her country club illusion is disintegrating. The son she praised as a genius, the boy she claimed was too ambitious for a mediocre woman like me, is sobbing on the carpet. She realizes her wealthy friends will hear about this. Her social standing is dead. I look down at my husband and my sister. I feel no pity. Pity requires a recipient capable of remorse. They only regret getting caught. You did not steal $5 million because you were stressed, I state clearly, ensuring the boardroom microphone amplifies my voice over their bickering. You stole taxpayer funds to finance a secret life with my sister. You actively forged my credentials to frame the mother of your child for a federal felony. Liam stares at the floor, his chest heaving as he struggles to draw breath in the freezing air. I did not just audit your company to deny your buyout. I continue, shifting my gaze to encompass the entire room. You walked into a regulated financial institution and presented stolen government assets as legitimate corporate revenue. I look toward the managing partner. He nods, understanding the gravity of the legal threshold Liam just crossed. This private equity firm operates under strict federal oversight. I explain, my tone cold and clinical. When an executive board uncovers active embezzlement of a government healthcare grant during an official acquisition pitch, we do not simply reject the proposal and send the founder home. The color drains from Liam's face. He finally understands the trap. He realizes this meeting was never about funding. It was an ambush. By law, institutional investors must report the presentation of stolen federal assets to the proper authorities, I inform him. Failing to report your presentation revokes our operating licenses. You brought a crime into our building. I turn my head and look at Evelyn. She stands near the back of the room, her briefcase resting on the table. I give her a single sharp nod. Evelyn turns toward the heavy oak doors. She grasps the brass handles and pulls them backward. The doors swing wide open. The hallway outside the executive suite is not empty. The usual corporate assistants and receptionists are gone. Replacing them is a squad of men and women wearing tactical gear and dark navy windbreakers. Stamped across their backs in bold yellow lettering is a 3-letter acronym, FBI. A team of federal agents from the White-Collar Crime Division steps into the boardroom. Their presence is heavy, authoritative, and terrifying. The lead agent surveys the room, his eyes locking instantly on the man kneeling on the floor and the woman in the white dress screaming near the podium. The trap door opens. There is no escape. The heavy footsteps of 6 federal agents echo across the polished hardwood floor, instantly draining whatever oxygen remains in the executive boardroom. They do not walk with the hesitant, polite steps of corporate assistants. They move in a synchronized tactical formation. Their dark navy windbreakers rustle sharply the bright yellow FBI letters, serving as a blinding reality check for every person in the room. The lead agent, a tall man with a stern jawline and graying temples, bypasses the long mahogany table. He does not acknowledge the silent equity partners. His eyes lock directly onto my husband, who is still kneeling near my leather chair. Liam tries to scramble backward. His tailored charcoal suit bunches awkwardly around his knees. He holds his hands up, his palms facing outward, trying to block the incoming tide of federal justice. "There is a misunderstanding here," Liam stammers, his voice reduced to a breathless wheeze. "I am the CEO of Vanguard Health. I am in the middle of a private acquisition meeting. You cannot just interrupt this." The lead agent does not slow his pace. He reaches down and grabs Liam by the collar of his bespoke jacket. With a single fluid motion, the agent hauls my husband to his feet. Liam flails his expensive leather shoes, scrambling for traction on the slick floor. The agent spins him around and shoves him forward. Liam hits the thick glass wall of the boardroom. The impact produces a heavy, resonant thud that vibrates through the corporate suite. His cheek presses against the cold glass. His charismatic, arrogant persona shatters into dust. "Liam Williams, you are under arrest," the agent declares, his voice a deep baritone that commands the space. The crisp, metallic clicking of heavy steel handcuffs fills the quiet room. The agent forces Liam's arms behind his back, locking the cuffs securely over his wrists. Liam lets out a raw, guttural sob. The sound is pathetic. It is the noise of a man realizing his fabricated tech empire is a prison cell. In the front row, Vanessa realizes the gravity of the situation. Her survival instinct flares. She drops her luxury handbag and lunges toward the secondary exit at the back of the suite. She thinks she can slip out into the hallway and vanish into the Miami crowds. She takes exactly 3 steps before 2 female agents intercept her. "Do not touch me," Vanessa shrieks, her voice piercing the tense air. "I am a victim. I am an influencer. You are ruining my dress." The female agents ignore her protests. They grab her upper arms, halting her escape. Vanessa kicks her designer heels, thrashing side to side. Her pristine white silk dress twists and wrinkles, losing its glamorous shape. The officers spin her around and force her wrists together. "Vanessa Williams, you are under arrest for federal wire fraud and conspiracy to commit embezzlement," one of the agents states, maintaining a surgical, detached tone over my sister's frantic screams. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "I did not know about the grant money," Vanessa wails, sobbing so hard her heavy makeup begins to run down her cheeks in dark streaks. "Liam lied to me. He told me the charity was a tax write-off." The agent finishes reading the Miranda rights, unimpressed by the performance. Vanessa slumps forward, her knees buckling, but the officers hold her upright. The fake tears she posted on social media yesterday have morphed into genuine, suffocating terror. She is no longer the tragic heroine of her internet channel. She is a federal suspect wearing handcuffs. In the back row, the illusion of high society crumbles for my in-laws. Richard jumps to his feet. His face flushes a deep, dangerous shade of crimson. He points a shaking finger at the lead agent. "This is an outrage," Richard shouts, puffing out his chest, desperately trying to salvage his fading patriarchal authority. "I am calling my lawyers. You are harassing a legitimate business owner. My son is a visionary. We will sue this entire department for defamation." The lead agent turns his head slowly. He fixes Richard with a stare so cold it stops the older man in his tracks. "If you take your phone out of your pocket, I will charge you with obstruction of a federal investigation," the agent warns, stepping away from the glass wall. "Do you want to join your son in the transport van?" Richard's mouth opens, but the bluster dies in his throat. He slowly lowers his hand and sinks back into his chair. He realizes he has no power here. He has no connections. He is just a suburban grifter watching his meal ticket get hauled away in steel bracelets. Diane covers her face with both hands. She hyperventilates, her chest heaving under her silk scarf. Her country club friends, her lavish luncheons, her unearned arrogance, all of it is evaporating. The lead agent turns to address the room, pulling a folded warrant from his interior jacket pocket. Pursuant to a federal judge's order, all physical and liquid assets tied to the Azure Horizon Initiative and Vanguard Health are seized effective immediately, the agent announces. A Coast Guard tactical unit has already boarded a 70-foot vessel named the Azure Dream, docked in South Beach. The marina is secured. Furthermore, we are freezing all secondary accounts subsidized by these stolen funds. Diane lets out a high, strangled gasp. She looks at her husband, the leased luxury sedans parked in their driveway, the premium credit cards resting in their wallets. The government is taking everything. They are penniless. Liam presses his forehead against the boardroom glass. Tears stream down his face, dripping onto the collar of his shirt. He looks over his shoulder, locking eyes with me one last time. He searches for a shred of the supportive, quiet wife he thought he could discard. He finds a senior compliance director sitting at the head of the table, resting her hands over her unborn child, watching his demise with unblinking focus. "Get them out of here," the lead agent orders. The agents pull Liam away from the glass. They drag him toward the heavy oak doors. His legs refuse to support his weight. He stumbles, his polished shoes scuffing the hardwood floor. The executives around the mahogany table watch him pass, their faces locked in expressions of clinical disgust. They are witnessing the ultimate corporate failure. Vanessa is hauled out right behind him. Her white dress is stained with sweat and makeup. She keeps her head down, crying into her own chest, terrified of the men and women in navy windbreakers. They are escorted out of the executive suite and marched down the long hallway toward the private elevators. I remain seated. Evelyn packs her legal files into her briefcase, offering me a single sharp nod of approval. The trap worked flawlessly. Down on the ground floor, the corporate lobby is a soaring atrium of glass and steel. Typically, it is a quiet, sterile environment reserved for wealthy clients. Today, it is a circus. Evelyn is a thorough attorney. She understands that legal ruin is only half the battle. Social annihilation requires an audience. Hours before the pitch began, she placed a few anonymous tips to the local financial news networks, hinting at a major federal raid involving a Miami tech startup. The elevator doors chime on the ground floor. Liam and Vanessa step out, flanked by the federal agents. A sea of flashing camera bulbs erupts. Dozens of reporters, photographers, and curious corporate employees crowd the lobby perimeter. Microphones are thrust forward. Journalists shout questions, asking Liam about the stolen healthcare grant and the fake charity. Liam shrinks away from the bright flashes. He tries to hide his face behind the shoulder of the agent pulling him forward, but there is nowhere to hide. His sobbing, red, tear-stained face is captured from 10 different angles. The photos will hit the internet within the hour. The tech founder, who loved the spotlight, is now blinded by it. Vanessa tries to turn her back to the cameras. She shrieks, begging the photographers to stop recording her. The very influencer who built a following by broadcasting false allegations against her pregnant sister is now starring in a viral video of her own federal perp walk. Her digital empire is turning into a digital tomb. The agents push through the double glass doors, dragging my husband and my sister out into the sweltering Miami heat. The federal transport vans sit idling at the curb, their red and blue lights reflecting off the towering skyscrapers. They are shoved into the back of the armored vehicles. The heavy metal doors slam shut, sealing them inside. The engines roar to life, pulling away from the curb, merging into the downtown traffic, and heading directly toward the federal holding facility. Their elite lifestyle is a distant memory. Their arrogance is dead. I watch the live news feed from the tablet on my boardroom desk, watching the vans disappear down the street. The execution is complete. 6 months have passed since the doors of the downtown executive suite closed behind the federal agents. The humid Florida winter has faded, giving way to the bright, unyielding heat of a Miami spring. I step out onto the terrace of my brickle penthouse. The morning sun warms the sleek glass and steel of the building. A gentle breeze rolls off Biscayne Bay, carrying the faint, salty scent of the ocean. I am not holding a weaponized dossier of financial records today. I am holding my newborn daughter. She rests against my chest, her breathing a soft, steady rhythm. She is healthy, safe, and entirely unaware of the chaos that preceded her arrival. I walk over to the edge of the balcony, resting my hand on the cool metal railing. I take a slow sip of crisp, sparkling water from the glass in my hand. The ice clinks softly. I look out over the sprawling city skyline, watching the endless stream of traffic moving far below. The air up here is clean. The toxic debris of the past has been swept away, leaving behind a pristine foundation. The legal system moved with remarkable speed. When federal prosecutors hold unassailable digital evidence of healthcare fraud, wire theft, and forged authorizations, they do not offer lenient deals. They offer ultimatums. Liam and Vanessa faced a stark reality. Their appointed public defenders took one look at the routing numbers, the IP logs, and the security footage I provided, and immediately advised their clients to surrender. A trial would have exposed them to decades behind bars. Last month, I sat in the back row of a federal courtroom and watched the final chapter of their fabricated empire close. Liam and Vanessa stood before the judge wearing shapeless, faded orange jumpsuits. The designer silk dresses and bespoke charcoal suits were gone, replaced by the harsh, humiliating uniform of the American penal system. They did not stand together. The illusion of their grand romance dissolved the moment the handcuffs clicked shut. During the interrogation phase, they turned on each other with ruthless efficiency. Liam tried to pin the creation of the fake charity entirely on Vanessa. He told the investigators she seduced him and manipulated the startup ledgers. Vanessa cried to the prosecutors, claiming Liam was a predatory mastermind who coerced her into signing documents she did not understand. The federal judge saw right through the mutual deception. He reviewed the evidence and handed down the sentences. They both accepted federal plea deals. The gavel fell, securing a 10-year sentence for each of them in maximum security correctional facilities. In the federal system, there is no early parole for good behavior. They will serve every single day of that decade. Liam is currently housed in a penitentiary in Central Florida. The man who once stood in front of a private equity board demanding a $50 million buyout now earns pennies an hour sweeping concrete floors in a prison cafeteria. He has no phone, no internet access, and no startup. His towering ego is locked inside a 6x8 cell. Vanessa was transferred to a federal women's facility. The aspiring influencer who lived for the validation of strangers now wears a numbered badge. She has no ring light, no followers, and no high society parties to attend. The digital empire she tried to build on the back of my pain has been erased from the internet. Her bank accounts remain frozen, her fake charity dismantled, and her future permanently branded with a felony conviction. The justice delivered to my in-laws was equally severe, though fought on a different battlefield. Diane and Richard assumed they could distance themselves from their son's crimes. They thought they could retreat to their Coral Gables social circle and play the role of the heartbroken, innocent parents. The Department of Justice had other plans. Federal investigators trace stolen government funds to the very last cent. The auditors discovered that Richard's luxury car lease, Diane's exorbitant country club dues, and their platinum credit card payments were subsidized directly by Vanguard Health's operating accounts. They were living on embezzled taxpayer capital. The asset forfeiture was swift and humiliating. The government dispatched recovery agents to their pristine suburban neighborhood in broad daylight. Neighbors peered through their blinds as tow trucks hauled Richard's prized luxury sedan down the driveway. Federal marshals posted seizure notices on their front door. Stripped of their stolen financial padding, the reality of their situation crushed them. They could not afford the mortgage. They could not afford the lawyers required to fight the IRS. They were forced into immediate bankruptcy. The elite Miami society they worshipped operates on strict, unforgiving rules. Wealth and status are paramount. Scandal is a contagion. The moment the news of the federal raid hit the local papers, Diane and Richard became pariahs. The country club revoked their membership to protect the institution's image. Their wealthy friends stopped returning their phone calls. The dinner invitations ceased. They lost the golden boy they idolized, and they lost the lifestyle they felt entitled to. Today, Diane and Richard live in a cramped two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. They spend their days avoiding eye contact with the neighbors, isolated and humiliated, choking on the bitter ashes of the aristocratic illusion they tried to sustain. I step back from the edge of the balcony, shifting my daughter so her head rests comfortably against my shoulder. She opens her eyes, blinking against the bright morning light. I did not shrink to accommodate the betrayal. When confronted with infidelity and financial ruin, society often expects a woman to retreat. We are expected to cry, to negotiate, or to accept a quiet divorce settlement just to keep the peace. I refused to negotiate with thieves. I chose a different path. Following the boardroom execution, the private equity firm did not just retain my services as a compliance auditor. The managing partners recognized the lethal precision of my investigation. They saw a woman capable of protecting their capital at all costs. They offered me a seat on the executive board. I now dictate risk assessment policy for the entire Southeastern Division. I command a compensation package that ensures my daughter will never have to rely on anyone else for her security. The waterfront mansion in Coral Gables was sold, adding another layer of capital to my untraceable private trust. I walk back inside the penthouse, the glass doors sliding shut behind me, muting the sounds of the city. The air conditioning is cool and refreshing. My home is a sanctuary, impenetrable and secure. People often mistake anger for strength. They think revenge requires screaming, throwing objects, or waging a chaotic public war. But true retaliation is a quiet, calculated discipline. It requires patience. It requires letting your enemies inflate their own egos until they step directly into a trap of their own making. I weaponized my competence. I took the skills I used every day to track corporate thieves and applied them to my own living room. I dismantled their lies with undeniable data. The ultimate revenge is not simply destroying those who wronged you. Ruin is just the byproduct of justice. The true victory is what comes after the smoke clears. The ultimate revenge is building a life so spectacular, so grounded in truth and independence, that the people who tried to break you can never reach you again. They are locked away in the dark, and I am standing in the light, holding the entire world in my arms.